The hospital corridor was cold, its walls echoing with the quiet hum of machines and the soft cries of worried families. In the corner, under the dim flicker of a fluorescent light, a man sat alone, his calloused fingers trembling as they held a battered violin case. His clothes were worn, his shoes scuffed, but his eyes, they carried the kind of pain only a father could know. His name was Daniel Hayes, a single dad, a construction worker by day, and a forgotten musician by heart. Tonight, he wasn't just playing for a dream, he was playing for his daughter's life. The surgery was set to begin in less than an hour. His 7-year-old daughter, Lily, was inside the operating room, her tiny body fighting against a rare heart condition that had drained every cent Daniel had, and then some. The hospital had allowed him to pay part of the bill up front, but the rest was still owed. And without it, they'd already hinted they might delay the final phase of her treatment. He couldn't let that happen. Not to his little girl. Not after all she'd already endured. As he opened the violin case, his hands shook, not from fear, but from the unbearable mix of hope and helplessness that gripped his soul. The violin wasn't new. In fact, it was cracked near the bridge, a relic from the days when Daniel once played in a small jazz bar downtown before life turned cruel. Before the car accident that took his wife, leaving him to raise Lily alone. Before the bills, the debts, and the slow fading of his dreams. He drew in a long breath and lifted the bow. The first note echoed softly through the corridor, a sound so pure, so hauntingly beautiful, that it silenced even the nurses passing by. It was as if the melody itself carried tears. If you're touched by this story already, make sure to like this video, drop a heartfelt comment for Daniel and Lily, and subscribe to Soul Spark, where real stories ignite real emotions. Daniel closed his eyes and played, not for an audience, but for Lily. Every stroke of the bow told their story: the nights she cried from pain, the mornings she smiled despite it, the laughter they shared in the park before the sickness took her breath away. The melody rose and fell like a heartbeat, fragile yet unstoppable. Unbeknownst to him, a man had stopped at the far end of the corridor. A tall, sharply dressed figure with silver hair and eyes that carried a depth of experience. His name was Alexander Royce, the billionaire CEO of Royce Industries. He had come to the hospital that night not as a man of power, but as a father himself. His son was in the intensive care unit after a tragic overdose. Alexander had all the money in the world, but none of it could buy back the bond he had lost to ambition and neglect. And now, hearing Daniel's violin, something broke inside him. The music pulled him closer. He stood silently, watching as this man, clearly struggling yet unbroken, played with a rawness that words could never capture. The notes seemed to whisper truths Alexander had long forgotten, that love, in its purest form, is sacrifice. When the last note faded, Daniel lowered his violin, his eyes glistening. He hadn't noticed the man watching him. He only whispered to himself, "Hang on, baby girl, daddy's right here." Alexander approached slowly. "That was extraordinary," he said, his voice low. Daniel looked up, startled, not recognizing the man. "Thank you," he muttered. "Just trying to keep my head straight. My daughter's in surgery?"
Is she all right?
Daniel hesitated. "She will be, I hope. I just need to find a way to cover the rest of her treatment. I'm short a few thousand, but I'll figure something out. I always do." He forced a smile, though his eyes betrayed his exhaustion. Alexander nodded, something stirring in him. "You're a musician." "Used to be," Daniel said softly. "Now I work construction. Music doesn't pay bills, but it helps me breathe." Alexander smiled faintly. "Sometimes, the things that help us breathe are the things that save us." For the next few minutes, they talked quietly. Alexander didn't reveal who he was, only that he'd once lost touch with what really mattered. And as he left, he slipped his business card into Daniel's violin case without saying a word. The surgery lasted 6 long hours. Daniel sat by the window the whole time, praying, clutching Lily's stuffed rabbit in his hands. When the doctor finally emerged, his face was tired but smiling. "She made it through. She's a fighter, Mr. Hayes." Daniel broke down, sobbing quietly as he whispered, "Thank you, God, thank you." Days later, as Lily recovered, a call came from an unknown number. "Mr. Hayes," said a voice on the line. "This is Alexander Royce. I was hoping we could meet. I'd like to discuss something about your music." Daniel was hesitant but agreed. When he arrived at the location Alexander mentioned, he found himself standing inside a grand concert hall, the kind of place where dreams lived and legends were made. Alexander greeted him warmly and gestured toward the stage. "Play something," he said simply. Daniel's hands trembled as he lifted his violin once more. He played the same song he had played for Lily, the song born of pain, hope, and love. The sound filled the vast hall, echoing through the chandeliers, soaring high into the rafters. When he finished, silence hung heavy in the air. Alexander wiped a tear from his eye. "You don't know it yet," Alexander said softly, "but that melody, it's going to change your life." He handed Daniel a contract, an offer to record and perform under Royce Records, a subsidiary Alexander had quietly kept alive. "We'll release this song, and every cent of the profit goes toward a foundation for children like Lily. I'll fund her treatment in full. But I want you to keep playing. The world needs to hear this." Daniel was speechless. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll never stop sharing that music," Alexander replied, "because it reminded me what it means to love again." The video of Daniel's performance went viral within days. Millions watched, shared, and cried as they heard the story of a single father's love captured in a single melody. Donations poured in for Lily's surgery and for countless other children in need. The song, titled "For Lily's Heart," became a symbol of hope across the world. And one night, as Daniel tucked Lily into bed, her heart strong, her smile brighter than ever, he looked up at the stars and whispered, "We did it, baby. We really did." At that moment, the camera would fade out, the music rising softly in the background, a reminder that miracles aren't always loud. Sometimes they come quietly on the strings of a violin. Before we close, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, comment what moment moved you most, and subscribe to Soul Spark for more true stories that remind us what it means to love, to hope, and to believe. Because in the end, Daniel's story wasn't just about music, it was about faith, about a father who refused to give up and a stranger who remembered what really matters. And maybe, just maybe, it's a reminder for all of us that no matter how broken life feels, there's still a song waiting to be played, one that can heal, inspire, and spark a soul forever.